I could feel something was wrong the moment Deanna stepped back onto that stage in Beyond the Gates. Not wrong in the obvious way. That would have been easier to understand. What disturbed me was how perfect she looked. After weeks of shutting herself away following her father's death, I expected hesitation in her body language. I expected emotional instability. I expected grief to leak through the cracks. But instead, Deanna appeared calm, controlled, almost frighteningly composed. And in a show where emotional collapse usually reveals the truth, composure is what makes me suspicious. Her speech at the opening of the cotillion was emotionally flawless, too flawless. Every pause sounded intentional. Every emotional beat landed perfectly. Vanessa looked proud, almost relieved, as if she had finally gotten her daughter back. I could see the gratitude in Vanessa's eyes. She truly believed Deanna was healing, but I do not think Vanessa understands what she is actually seeing because grief like that does not disappear overnight. Not after losing a father, not after isolating yourself emotionally for so long. People who genuinely heal do not suddenly emerge polished and emotionally disciplined in public. That kind of transformation usually comes from suppression, not recovery. And suppression is dangerous, especially when someone has spent weeks alone with their thoughts. I keep thinking about Deanna's silence before this event. Silence in this family is never empty. Silence is where people observe. It is where resentment grows. It is where paranoia develops. While everyone assumed Deanna was emotionally collapsing, what if she was actually watching everyone more carefully than ever? What if she noticed things nobody else noticed? What if she heard conversations she was never supposed to hear? People ignore grieving daughters. That is the mistake families always make. They assume sadness makes someone weak, invisible, passive, but grief sharpens perception sometimes. It forces people to study behavior instead of trusting words. And suddenly Deanna comes back stronger, calmer, emotionally controlled after one important conversation with Kat. That cannot be a coincidence. Kat fascinates me because she understands emotional survival better than almost anyone else in this family. She used to be stubborn and reactive just like Deanna. But Kat learned something over time. Open emotional chaos makes you vulnerable. The people who survive in this world are the ones who control their reactions. I think Kat taught Deanna that lesson. Their conversation may have looked supportive on the surface, but psychologically it felt darker than that. Kat was not simply comforting her. I think Kat was teaching her how to weaponize restraint. And now Deanna is changing in ways Vanessa does not fully understand. Notice what Deanna did not say during that speech. She spoke about strength, about growth, about moving forward, but she never spoke about forgiveness. She never truly sounded at peace emotionally. It was performance without release that matters because someone can stop fighting publicly while still preparing privately. And even though Deanna seems willing to stop hurting Vanessa emotionally, I do not believe she has accepted Joey at all. In fact, I think Joey terrifies her. Honestly, Joey terrifies me too now. The plasma dealings are changing him psychologically. Every scene involving Joey lately feels tense even before he speaks. His eyes constantly move. He watches people too carefully. He reacts too quickly whenever conversations shift unexpectedly. That is not simply stress. That is fear. Real fear. The kind of fear people develop when they know they are trapped inside something bigger than themselves. What exactly is happening with these plasma transactions? Because I no longer believe this storyline is just about money or criminal activity. Joey behaves like someone under pressure from unseen forces. There is paranoia in his silence now. And paranoia usually means secrets. Listening, what if Joey owes dangerous people? What if he made promises he cannot escape from? What if Vanessa has no idea how deep the situation actually goes? Because the more Joey tries to appear calm, the more unstable he feels. There is this strange emotional disconnect in him lately. He talks like a man trying to maintain control, but his body language reveals panic underneath. And I think Deanna senses that too. Maybe that is why she suddenly stopped openly rebelling. What if Deanna realized direct confrontation would put Vanessa in danger? What if Deanna understands Joey is spiraling into something violent? And while all this is happening, Eva and Cat are engaged in their own psychological war that honestly feels just as dangerous. Nicole immediately warned Cat not to start trouble when Eva appeared, and that moment told me everything. Nicole already expects Cat to lose control emotionally around Eva. That means this conflict has been escalating privately for much longer than we realize. But what interests me most is how controlled Eva remains. Eva does not behave like someone desperate for acceptance anymore. That confidence is exactly why Kat cannot tolerate her presence. When Kat reminds Eva of her real identity, she is not simply insulting her. She is trying to emotionally reduce her. She wants Eva to feel smaller, less legitimate, less powerful, but Eva refuses. And that refusal is driving Kat insane. Because Eva knows something important now. Ted, Martin, and Nicole have already acknowledged her place whether Kat accepts it or not. Eva no longer needs permission to exist inside this family structure. Psychologically, that destroys Kat's sense of control. Kat needs emotional order. She needs clear roles. She needs to feel like she understands where everyone belongs. Eva ruins that. And honestly, Eva's confidence scares me a little too. Because why did she refuse the invitation to the cotillion? That decision keeps bothering me. If Eva truly has the support she claims, attending would have strengthened her position publicly. She had every reason to appear, unless she believed something ugly was about to happen there. What if Eva stayed away intentionally because she anticipated emotional fallout? Or worse, what if somebody warned her? Every interaction at this cotillion feels layered with hidden motives. Nobody seems emotionally sincere anymore. Even the smiles feel calculated, especially Kat's. Kat pretending she only wants a peaceful birthday with the things she wants sounds harmless at first. But psychologically, that sentence carries possessiveness, territoriality. Kat wants control over the emotional atmosphere around her. She wants people positioned correctly around her life. And then Ted congratulates her warmly, which should have felt comforting, but it didn't. Because Ted looked emotionally distracted the entire time. That scene of Ted standing alone and thinking may actually be one of the most important moments in this storyline. His face looked exhausted, almost haunted, like a man replaying mistakes in his head before they even happen. And then Kat notices him. That detail matters. Kat studies people constantly. She watches reactions more than words. So when she focuses on Ted's expression, I immediately wondered if she noticed the same thing Danny noticed later in Nicole's eyes. Desire, because Danny absolutely caught Nicole emotionally slipping. Nicole's embarrassment after Danny noticed her expression said everything to me. Nicole is no longer successfully hiding her feelings for Ted. The attraction is resurfacing openly now, even if she refuses to admit it verbally. And honestly, I think Ted feels it too. That is why his silence feels so heavy lately. There is unfinished emotional history between Ted and Nicole, and the terrifying part is that unresolved desire often becomes stronger with time, not weaker, especially when two people try too hard to suppress it. What if Ted has already crossed emotional boundaries with Nicole long before anything physical happened? What if the betrayal already started through conversations, eye contact, emotional intimacy? Because emotional affairs always begin quietly, through pauses, through understanding each other too well, through moments where two people communicate entire emotions without speaking. And suddenly Ted asking Aunt Monica to help Shanice feels suspicious to me too. At first it seemed compassionate. Ted wanted Shanice to move forward emotionally. He wanted guidance around her. But psychologically, people who obsess over fixing others are often trying to distract themselves from their own impulses. What if Ted was trying to prove to himself that he is still a good man? What if helping Shanice was emotional compensation for feelings he already knew were returning for Nicole? That possibility changes everything. Because if Shanice is finally becoming emotionally independent right when Ted reconnects with Nicole physically or emotionally, the timing becomes devastating. It would expose Ted as deeply conflicted, a man who presents himself as stable while secretly feeding his own emotional addiction. And yes, I said addiction because I think Ted may be addicted to the version of himself he becomes around Nicole. There is something psychologically intoxicating about unresolved love. It creates obsession disguised as nostalgia. People convince themselves they are revisiting old feelings when they are actually chasing emotional validation. And Nicole may be doing the exact same thing. Why else would Danny notice that look in her eyes so instantly? Danny recognized longing because it was no longer subtle. Nicole looked emotionally exposed for a split second, and she knew it immediately. That embarrassment was not random. It was panic. Panic that her internal feelings are becoming visible externally. And once emotions become visible in this family, they become weapons. That is what connects all these storylines together. Everyone is hiding something emotionally dangerous. Deanna hides her true thoughts behind composure. Joey hides fear behind authority. Cat hides insecurity behind cruelty. Eva hides knowledge behind confidence. Ted hides desire behind morality. Nicole hides longing behind restraint. Nobody is emotionally honest anymore. That is why every interaction feels suspicious now. Even ordinary conversations sound loaded with hidden meaning. A birthday greeting feels threatening. A speech feels manipulative. A glance across a room feels like betrayal waiting to happen. And I cannot stop wondering if all of this is building toward one catastrophic revelation, because these storylines do not feel separate anymore. What if Joey's criminal world eventually collides with Ted and Nicole's emotional scandal? What if Deanna discovers something connecting Joey to her father's death or the chaos surrounding the plasma operation? What if Eva knows more about this family than anyone realizes? What if Kat is not merely jealous, but actively investigating everyone around her? The atmosphere inside Beyond the Gates feels poisoned by suspicion right now. Nobody trusts anybody completely. Every character looks emotionally isolated, even when surrounded by people. And honestly, the character I trust the least right now may actually be Deanna. Because the girl who once looked shattered by grief has suddenly become unreadable. And unreadable people are always the most dangerous